The alien ship Harmony's Edge moved slowly through space, its dark hull almost invisible against the starry background. Inside the command center, Commander Zethkar studied the blue and green planet on his main screen. His 6 eyes focused on the swirling white clouds that covered parts of the world below. Such a small planet, Zethkar said to his second officer. Hard to believe these creatures think they own it. Officer Nemtar clicked his claws together, a sign of amusement among the Rex people. The humans are quite amusing, Commander. Our scouts report they still use chemical rockets to reach their own moon. Very primitive. Zethkar had been watching Earth for 3 months now. The Galactic Coalition had sent him here to study the humans before making contact. What he found was disappointing. These creatures had barely left their home planet. They had a few small stations in orbit and one tiny base on their moon. Their technology was at least 500 years behind Coalition standards. Have you finished the report on their military? Zethkar asked. Yes, Commander, they have nuclear weapons, but nothing that could threaten our shields. Their fastest ships take months to travel between planets in their own system. They use radio waves to talk to each other, which is very slow. Zethkar nodded. The humans would be easy to control. Like all primitive species, they would be given a choice. Join the Coalition as servants, or be forced to join. Either way, they would serve the greater good of the galaxy. Far below on Earth, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the patrol ship Liberty. The ship was currently stationed near Mars, watching for asteroids that might threaten the mining operations. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Jake had been in space for 15 years. He had seen Earth grow from a single-planet species to one with colonies throughout the solar system. The progress was slow, but steady. In another 50 years, humans might be ready to travel to other star systems. Captain, called Lieutenant Dan Foster from the communications station. I'm getting something strange on the deep space sensors. Jake turned his chair toward Foster. What kind of strange? It's a signal, sir, but it's not coming from any human ship or station. The pattern is completely different from anything in our databases. Jake felt his heart rate increase. For decades, scientists had wondered if humans were alone in the universe. Many believed that other intelligent life existed somewhere among the stars, but this was the first time anyone had detected proof. Can you decode it? Jake asked. Working on it now, sir. The computer is running translation programs. Foster paused, listening to his earpiece. Captain, I think it's a message, and I think it's directed at us. Jake stood up and walked over to Foster's station. On the screen, symbols appeared and disappeared as the computer worked to understand the alien language. Slowly, words in English began to appear. People of Earth, the message began. We are the Galactic Coalition. We have been watching your species for many years. The time has come for you to join the greater community of intelligent beings. Jake read the words twice, hardly believing what he was seeing. Aliens. Real aliens were talking to humanity. This was the most important moment in human history. The message continued. You will be contacted by our representatives in 72 hours. Prepare your leaders for negotiations. Resistance is not recommended. Not recommended? Jake said, out loud. That sounded more like a threat than a greeting. Foster looked up from his screen. Captain, there's more. The signal is coming from a ship about 1 million kilometers away. Our sensors show it's huge, maybe 10 times bigger than our largest vessels, Jake thought quickly. If aliens had ships that large, they probably had weapons to match. Humanity would need to be very careful in the coming days. Send this message to Earth Command immediately, Jake ordered. Priority Alpha. And Dan, keep monitoring that ship. I want to know if it moves or does anything unusual. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Barnes was working late in her laboratory when the emergency alert came through. As the planet's chief expert on possible alien life, she was one of the first people called when Jake's message arrived. Lisa read the alien transmission 3 times, her excitement growing with each reading. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. Humanity was about to learn they were not alone in the universe. But something about the message worried her. The aliens spoke about humanity like they were already in charge. They offered no real choice, just demands disguised as invitations. Lisa picked up her secure phone and called the White House. President Sam Mitchell needed to know about this immediately. 20 minutes later, Lisa sat in the Oval Office with President Mitchell and his top advisors. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed the news. "How much do we know about these aliens?" President Mitchell asked. "Very little, sir," Lisa replied. "The message suggests they've been watching us for years, but we've never detected them before. Their technology is clearly more advanced than ours." Defense Secretary Bob Kelly leaned forward in his chair. "The message sounds like an ultimatum to me. They're not asking if we want to join their coalition. They're telling us we have to." President Mitchell nodded. "That's how I read it too. The question is, what do we do about it?" General Rick Taylor, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, spoke up. "Mr. President, we need to assume they have superior firepower. If they've been watching us without being detected, they probably have weapons we can't imagine. So you're saying we should surrender?" asked Secretary of State Maria Lopez. "I'm saying we need to be realistic about our chances in a fight, General," Taylor replied. President Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "Humanity has faced bullies before. We've never backed down when our freedom was threatened. I don't intend to start now." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. If humanity chose to resist, it could mean war with beings far more advanced than themselves. But she also understood the president's position. Freedom was worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. "What are your orders, sir?" General Taylor asked. President Mitchell looked around the room at his advisors. "We have 72 hours to prepare. I want our best people working on this. Find out everything we can about these aliens, and activate the deep space defense protocols." As the meeting ended, Lisa wondered if humanity was making the right choice. The aliens clearly believed humans were primitive and weak. Maybe that assumption would work in humanity's favor. Maybe the aliens would underestimate what humans were capable of when their survival was at stake. She hoped they would find out soon enough. Commander Zethkar floated in his command chair, watching the data streams flow across his screens. His intelligence officers had spent the last 24 hours gathering information about human military capabilities. What they found made him laugh. "Show me their strongest weapons again," Zethkar said to his tactical officer. Officer Velmix activated the holographic display. Images of human nuclear missiles appeared in the air between them. "These are their most powerful weapons, Commander. They call them intercontinental ballistic missiles, very crude fusion devices." Zethkar studied the primitive rockets. "How much damage could they do to our shields?" "Practically none, sir. Our deflector screens could absorb thousands of these explosions without failing. The humans might as well throw rocks at us." The other officers in the command center made clicking sounds with their claws. This was how the Vrex people showed amusement. The idea of fighting humans was like imagining a battle between adults and children. "What about their space fleet?" Zethkar asked. "Even more pathetic," Velmix replied. "They have perhaps 50 ships capable of leaving their planet's orbit. Most are cargo vessels or research ships. We detected only a dozen that could be considered military vessels, and those carry weapons barely suitable for fighting pirates." Zethkar felt pleased with this news. The Coalition's rules required them to give primitive species a chance to surrender peacefully, but if the humans were foolish enough to resist, the war would be over in hours. "Their technology is at least 5 centuries behind ours," Velmix continued. "They still use chemical rockets for propulsion. Their fastest ships would take months to travel between the planets in their own system. We could cross their entire solar system in 2 days." "And their defenses?" Zethkar asked. "Laughable. They have a few orbital platforms around their homeworld, but our sensors show they're armed with the same primitive weapons as their ships. A single cruiser from our fleet could destroy their entire defensive network." Zethkar nodded with satisfaction. This would be one of the easiest conquests in Coalition history. The humans would realize they had no choice but to submit. Most primitive species accepted their fate once they understood how hopeless resistance would be. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Colonel Matt Rodriguez walked through corridors that officially did not exist. The Cheyenne. Mountain Deep Space Command Center had been built in secret over the past 30 years. Only a handful of people knew about humanity's hidden preparations. Matt stopped at a massive steel door marked with warning signs in 12 languages. He placed his hand on the scanner and waited for the computer to verify his identity. The door opened with a heavy grinding sound. Inside, dozens of technicians worked at control stations. Giant screens showed star charts and tactical displays. This was the nerve center of Earth's real defense network, the one no alien scanner would ever detect. "Status report," Matt said to the duty officer. Major Susan Clark turned from her console. "All deep space assets are coming online, sir. The asteroid belt stations are fully operational. Luna Base is ready. The outer system platforms are charging their main batteries." Matt nodded. For decades, humanity had been building defenses throughout the solar system. To any observer, they looked like mining operations, research stations, and communication relays. In reality, they were weapons platforms more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "What about the Ghost Fleet?" Matt asked. "Standing by, sir. All 743 vessels are maintaining their disguises. The enemy will never know they're there until we're ready to strike." Matt smiled grimly. The aliens thought humans had 50 ships. They were wrong by a factor of 15. Most of humanity's real fleet was hidden throughout the solar system, disguised as asteroids, space debris, and civilian vessels. At the Lunar Research Facility, Dr. Amy Watson put the finishing touches on her latest creation. The sleek ship in front of her looked nothing like the crude rockets the aliens had detected. This vessel used technology that would have seemed like magic to humans just 50 years ago. "Final systems check," Amy said to her team. The engineers ran through their checklists. Gravitational drive online, quantum communication array ready, adaptive stealth systems fully operational, plasma cannon arrays charged and ready. Amy felt proud of what they had accomplished. This ship could travel faster than light, communicate instantly across vast distances, and fight with weapons that could shatter planets, and it was just one of hundreds like it. Dr. Watson called her assistant, Tom Bradley. "We're getting a message from Earth Command. They want to know if the prototype is ready for combat." Amy looked at the beautiful ship one more time. "Tell them the Vengeance is ready to show these aliens what human engineering can really do." Back on the patrol ship Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison received new orders from Earth Command. The message was short and coded, but Jake understood what it meant. Humanity was not going to surrender. "Dan," Jake called to his communications officer. "Open a channel to the alien ship." Lieutenant Foster worked at his controls. "Channel open, sir." Jake took a deep breath. What he was about to do would change history forever. "Alien vessel, this is Captain Morrison of the Earthship Liberty. I have been authorized to begin negotiations with your representatives." The reply came quickly. "Human vessel, this is Commander Zethkar of the coalition ship Harmony's Edge. We are pleased that your leaders have chosen to be reasonable. Prepare to receive our terms for your surrender." "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Jake said calmly. "We're not here to surrender. We're here to discuss the terms of your withdrawal from our solar system." There was a long pause. When Zethkar finally replied, his voice carried the tone of an adult correcting a foolish child. "Captain Morrison, perhaps you do not understand your situation. We represent a coalition of 12 advanced civilizations. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours. Resistance would be suicide." Jake smiled, though he knew the aliens couldn't see his face. "Commander, perhaps you don't understand our situation either. We've been preparing for this conversation for a very long time." "Preparing?" Zethkar laughed. "What could you possibly have prepared that would concern us?" "You'll find out soon enough," Jake replied. "But first, let me ask you a question. How many human ships do your sensors detect in this system?" Zethkar paused, probably checking his displays. 53 vessels, most of them civilian craft. "Why?" Jake's smile grew wider. "Just curious." "We'll be in touch, Commander." Jake cut the communication and turned to his crew. "All hands, prepare for combat, and someone send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the aliens took the bait, the trap was set. Soon the galaxy would learn why it was never wise to threaten humanity." The 72-hour deadline passed like a shadow over Earth. In the Oval Office, President Sam Mitchell sat with his advisors as the final minutes ticked away. Outside, the world held its breath. Every human on the planet knew that these next few moments would decide their species' fate. "Mr. President," said General Rick Taylor, "it's time." Sam Mitchell nodded and walked to the communication console. He had practiced this speech 100 times, but his hand still shook slightly as he activated the transmission. This message would go directly to the alien fleet waiting beyond Earth's orbit. "To the beings who call themselves the Galactic Coalition," President Mitchell began. "I am Sam Mitchell, elected leader of the human species. You have demanded our surrender within 72 hours. I am here to give you our answer." He paused, thinking of all the humans throughout history who had faced impossible odds. From ancient warriors fighting with spears against armored enemies, to pilots flying against superior forces in 2 world wars. Humanity had always found a way to survive. Our answer is no. Humanity does not kneel. We do not surrender our freedom to bullies, no matter how advanced their technology might be. If you want to control us, you will have to fight us. And I promise you this, we will make you regret that choice. The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, everyone in the room understood that there was no turning back now. Aboard the Harmony's Edge, Commander Zethkar stared at his communication screen in disbelief. Around him, his officers made confused clicking sounds. No primitive species had ever rejected the Coalition's generous offer before. "Did they just declare war on us?" asked Officer Velmix. "It appears so," Zethkar replied. He felt more puzzled than worried. It was like watching children challenge trained soldiers to combat. "Very well. If they choose destruction over wisdom, we will grant their wish." Zethkar activated his tactical display. "Target one of their orbital stations. Use minimum power. We will show them what resistance costs." The Coalition ship's main weapon charged with a low humming sound. Energy built up in the massive cannon until it glowed like a small star. This single shot could vaporize a mountain or boil away an ocean. "Firing," announced the weapons officer. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the alien ship, crossing the distance to Earth in seconds. It struck one of the orbital platforms that protected the planet's northern hemisphere. The aliens expected to see the station disappear in a ball of fire. Instead, something impossible happened. The energy beam struck an invisible barrier around the station and scattered harmlessly into space. Not only did the human platform survive, it immediately returned fire with a weapon the aliens had never seen before. The particle beam that erupted from the human station cut through space like a sword of light. It struck the Coalition ships, shields, and punched through them as if they were made of paper. Alarms screamed throughout the alien vessel as systems overloaded and failed. "Impossible!" Zethkar shouted. "Our shields are the strongest in the galaxy. Sir, we've lost 40% of our defensive screen," reported the damage control officer. "That weapon used some kind of quantum disruption field. Our shields can't stop it." Zethkar felt the first stirrings of fear. How could a primitive species possess weapons that could penetrate Coalition defenses? It was like discovering that children had somehow built laser cannons. But this was only the beginning of the Coalition's nightmare. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet began to reveal itself. What the aliens had thought were asteroids suddenly came to life, their rocky surfaces falling away to expose gleaming warships beneath. Civilian cargo haulers shed their disguises and activated weapon systems that blazed with deadly energy. General Rick Taylor watched the transformation from his command center deep beneath Earth's surface. On the massive screens around him, red dots representing human ships appeared throughout the solar system. In minutes, the 50 ships the aliens had detected became 500. "All units, this is Earth Command," Taylor spoke into his headset. "Execute Operation Surprise. Show these invaders what happens when you threaten humanity." Captain Jake Morrison smiled as he received the order aboard the Liberty. His ship had been playing the role of a simple patrol vessel for months, but now, it was time to drop the act. "All hands battle stations," Jake announced. "Drop stealth mode and activate combat systems." The Liberty transformed before the aliens' amazed eyes. Armor plating slid back to reveal weapons that belonged on ships 10 times its size. Hidden engines roared to life, giving the vessel speed that defied the laws of physics as the aliens understood them. But Jake's ship was not alone. Throughout the solar system, hundreds of similar vessels revealed their true nature. The asteroid belt mining stations opened fire with massive railguns that could punch holes through planets. Hidden bases on the outer moons launched swarms of fighters that moved faster than anything in the Coalition fleet. Commander Zethkar watched his tactical display fill with red enemy contacts. In the space of 10 minutes, the humans had gone from having a handful of primitive ships to commanding a fleet that outnumbered the Coalition forces 3-1. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Where did all these ships come from?" His intelligence officer worked frantically at his station. "Commander, I'm analyzing the enemy vessels. Their technology, it's not primitive at all. Some of these weapons are more advanced than our own." "That's impossible. We've been watching them for years." "Sir, I think they've been watching us too. These ships use design principles I've never seen before. It's like they took our technology and improved it." On the lunar surface, Dr. Amy Watson gave the order her team had been waiting decades to hear. "Launch the Vengeance. Show them what human science can really do." The sleek ship rose from its hidden hangar like a silver arrow. It moved through space with impossible grace, bending the laws of physics around itself. This was humanity's most advanced creation, a vessel that represented 50 years of secret research and development. As the Vengeance approached the Coalition fleet, its weapon systems came online. The aliens' sensors couldn't even detect what kind of energy the human ship was using. It was completely outside their understanding of science. Zethkar realized with growing horror that everything the Coalition thought they knew about humans was wrong. This was not a primitive species stumbling into space. This was an advanced civilization that had been hiding its true capabilities while studying its potential enemies. "All ships, retreat to safe distance," Zethkar ordered. "We need to report this to the Coalition High Command immediately." But as the alien ships tried to withdraw, they discovered that the humans had surrounded them. There was nowhere to run. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly how dangerous that could be. The battle that followed changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. The Coalition fleet, trapped in Earth's solar system, found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow any known rules of combat. Commander Zethkar watched in horror as human ships attacked his formation. These vessels moved like nothing he had ever seen before. They didn't form neat battle lines or follow predictable patterns. Instead, they swarmed around the Coalition fleet like angry insects, striking from impossible angles and disappearing before his gunners could return fire. "Focus all weapons on the nearest human ship," Zethkar ordered. His tactical officer tried to comply, but the humans wouldn't stay still long enough to target. One moment a human ship would be directly ahead, the next it would be attacking from behind, using the gravity of nearby planets to change direction faster than Coalition computers could track. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker led a squadron of human fighters in an attack that made no sense by alien standards. Instead of flying, in formation, his pilots scattered across the battlefield. They used asteroids as cover, hid behind the larger human ships, and even flew directly through the exhaust trails of Coalition vessels to mask their approach. "Alpha Squadron, hit them from below," Steve called over his radio. "Beta Squadron, circle around and attack their engines. Don't give them time to think." The alien ships tried to respond, but their tactical computers couldn't predict what the humans would do next. Coalition warfare followed ancient patterns that had been refined over thousands of years. But humans fought like no other species in the galaxy. When Coalition ships attempted to retreat, human vessels blocked their escape routes. When the aliens tried to form defensive positions, human ships appeared inside their formations, having somehow slipped past sensors that should have detected them easily. The most terrifying thing for the aliens was that humans seemed to have no regard for their own survival. Coalition pilots were trained to preserve their ships and crew above all else. Losing experienced personnel was considered a waste of valuable resources, but human pilots thought differently. When Captain Julie Adams saw that her ship Ghostwalker couldn't escape from 3 Coalition destroyers, she didn't try to run. Instead, She flew directly into the center of the enemy formation and detonated her ship's power core. The explosion destroyed all 3 alien vessels and created a gap in their defensive line that other human ships quickly exploited. To the aliens, this looked like madness. To humans, it was just another tactical option. "Sir, the humans are using suicide attacks," reported Zethkar's tactical officer. "They're destroying their own ships to damage ours." Zethkar couldn't understand this behavior. Why would they throw away trained crew members? Don't they realize how difficult they are to replace? What Zethkar didn't know was that Captain Adams and her crew had survived. At the last moment before detonation, they had used a technology the Coalition had never seen. Emergency teleportation that moved the entire crew to safety aboard another human ship. The humans weren't actually sacrificing their people. They were using the aliens' assumptions against them, making the Coalition think they were facing an enemy with unlimited willingness to die. But the real shock came when Coalition ships tried to surrender. In galactic warfare, there were strict rules about accepting the surrender of defeated enemies. When a ship powered down its weapons and sent the traditional surrender signal, the fighting was supposed to stop. The humans ignored these signals completely. Captain Morrison aboard the Liberty received a surrender transmission from a Coalition cruiser that had lost its shields and weapons. According to every rule of civilized warfare, Morrison should have accepted the surrender and taken the crew prisoner. Instead, he opened fire with every weapon his ship possessed. "Captain, they're trying to surrender," called Lieutenant Foster from his communication station. "I don't see any white flag," Morrison replied coldly. "And last I checked, humanity never agreed to follow their rules." The Coalition cruiser exploded in a ball of fire. There were no survivors. This pattern repeated throughout the battle. Human ships showed no mercy to enemies who tried to surrender. They fought with a brutal efficiency that shocked the Coalition forces. When alien crews abandoned their damaged ships in escape pods, human fighters hunted them down and destroyed them. To the Coalition, this was barbaric. To humans, it was practical. These aliens had come to enslave humanity. They deserved no mercy. Commander Zethkar realized that his fleet was not just losing the battle, it was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that fought like demons. Half his ships were already gone, and the humans showed no signs of slowing down. "All remaining vessels, full retreat," he ordered. "We need to reach the jump point and return to Coalition space." But when the alien ships tried to escape, they discovered that the humans had anticipated this move. The Vengeance, Dr. Watson's experimental ship, appeared directly in their path. The sleek vessel moved with impossible speed, blocking every escape route. "This is Captain Kelly of the human vessel Vengeance," came a transmission. "You are not leaving this system. Your invasion ends here." Zethkar activated his main screen to get a better look at the human ship. What he saw made his blood run cold. The Vengeance was smaller than most ships in his fleet, but it radiated power like a miniature star. Energy readings from the human vessel were off the charts. "Impossible," Zethkar whispered. "No ship that size could generate that much power." The Vengeance proved him wrong. The human ship opened fire with weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. Space twisted around the energy beams, and when they struck Coalition ships, the alien vessels simply ceased to exist. They didn't explode or burn, they just vanished as if they had never been there at all. In 30 minutes of combat, the Coalition fleet of 80 ships was reduced to 12. The survivors huddled together, their weapons useless, their shields failing, their crews paralyzed with fear. The humans had not just won the battle, they had demonstrated a way of fighting that would give the entire galaxy nightmares. And this was only the beginning of what humanity was capable of when truly angered. Commander Zethkar sent an emergency transmission to Coalition High Command. The message was simple, but terrifying. "The humans are not what we thought. We have awakened something that should have been left alone. May the gods help us all." The news of the Coalition fleet's destruction spread through the galaxy like wildfire. On 12 different worlds, alien leaders stared at their communication screens in disbelief. The impossible had happened. A primitive species had not only defeated their most powerful fleet, but had done so without losing a single ship. On the Vrex homeworld, Emperor Vrex Thule paced back and forth in his throne room. His advisors cowered before him, afraid to speak. The Emperor's rage was legendary, and today he was angrier than anyone had ever seen him. "Explain to me," the Emperor hissed, "how 80 of our finest warships were destroyed by creatures who barely understand faster-than-light travel." High Admiral Korthvex, the Coalition's supreme military commander, trembled as he delivered his report. "Your Majesty, the humans were not what our intelligence reports suggested. They have been hiding their true capabilities for decades." "Hiding?" the Emperor roared. "How does a species hide an entire battle fleet? They disguise their ships as civilian vessels and space debris. Our sensors never detected the deception. When the battle began, they revealed hundreds of warships equipped with technology we have never seen before." The Emperor's claws scraped against the marble floor. "What kind of technology?" "Weapons that can penetrate our strongest shields. Ships that move faster than our computers can track. Energy sources that should be impossible for vessels of their size." Admiral Korthvex paused, his voice shaking. "Your Majesty, some of their technology appears to be more advanced than our own." Meanwhile, in the ruins of what had been the Coalition's most powerful fleet, Commander Zethkar sat in a holding cell aboard the human ship Liberty. His pride was as shattered as his fleet. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be helpless. Captain Morrison entered the cell carrying a datapad. He looked at the alien commander with cold eyes. "I have some questions for you." Zethkar raised his head. Even in defeat, he tried to maintain some dignity. "I am a prisoner of war. According to Galactic law, I am only required to give you my name and rank." Morrison laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Galactic law? You mean the rules your coalition made up to control other species? We never agreed to follow your laws. You must have some concept of civilized behavior," Zethkar protested. "We do," Morrison replied. "But you gave up any claim to civilized treatment when you came here to enslave us. Now, I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're going to answer them. The only choice you have is whether you answer them the easy way or the hard way." Morrison activated his datapad. "First question. How long has the Coalition been watching Earth?" Zethkar remained silent. Morrison nodded to someone outside the cell. A moment later, the temperature in the room began to drop rapidly. Within minutes, Zethkar's breath was visible in the air. "Humans are remarkably adaptable to temperature changes," Morrison said conversationally. "We evolved on a planet with extreme weather, but I understand that Vrex people are cold-blooded. How long can you survive in freezing temperatures?" Zethkar lasted 20 minutes before he began talking. "We have been observing your species for 137 years, he admitted through chattering teeth. "But we never made direct contact because you seemed too primitive to be worth our attention." Morrison made notes on his pad. "What other species has the Coalition conquered recently?" "The Zelani people of the Outer Rim were integrated into the Coalition 15 years ago. The Koroth Federation joined us 23 years ago. The Madeiran Republic became a protectorate 41 years ago." "Joined?" Morrison asked. "Or were forced to join?" Zethkar looked away. "All species eventually see the wisdom of Coalition membership." Morrison studied the alien commander for a long moment. "I think it's time you learned something about humans that your intelligence reports missed." Morrison activated a wall screen that showed a view of Earth from space. But this wasn't the primitive world the Coalition had expected to find. Massive space stations orbited the planet, connected by streams of ships moving back and forth. The moon was covered with cities and industrial complexes. Even Mars had human colonies visible from orbit. "You see, Commander, we've been preparing for this day for over a century. The first time we detected your scout ships, we decided to let you watch us. We wanted you to see exactly what we wanted you to see." Zethkar stared at the screen in shock. "But our sensors showed a primitive civilization. Chemical rockets, crude, nuclear weapons, limited space travel. All real," Morrison confirmed. "But not complete. While you were watching our public space program struggle to reach the moon, Our secret programs were building ships that could travel to other star systems. While you cataloged our primitive weapons, our scientists were developing technology that could destroy entire planets. Morrison changed the display to show human ships patrolling the edges of the solar system. These vessels were clearly built for war, sleek and deadly looking. We've known about the Coalition for over a century. We've studied every species in your alliance. We know where your homeworlds are located. We know the specifications of your ships. We know the weaknesses in your defenses. We know everything about you, Commander. The question is, what are we going to do with that knowledge? Zethkar felt true fear for the first time in his life. What do you want? Morrison smiled, and the expression was not comforting. We want you to carry a message back to your coalition. Tell them that Earth is not interested in joining their empire. Tell them that any attempt to attack us or our colonies will result in the complete destruction of the attacking fleet. Morrison leaned closer to the alien commander. And tell them this. We know where you live. Every coalition world, every military base, every civilian population center. If you ever threaten humanity again, we won't just destroy your fleets. We'll visit every world in the coalition and show them what happens when you anger the humans. You would attack civilian populations? Zethkar asked in horror. Morrison's expression didn't change. You came here to enslave our children and grandchildren. What did you think we would do? Send you a strongly worded letter? The captain stood up and walked toward the door. Your ship will be repaired, and you'll be allowed to return to Coalition space. But understand this. You're only alive because we want you to deliver our message. If we see any Coalition ships in human space again, there won't be any survivors. To carry warnings home. As Morrison left the cell, Zethkar realized that the galaxy had just gained a new apex predator, and that predator was not interested in following anyone else's rules. 6 months had passed since the day that changed the galaxy forever. The Coalition's failed invasion of Earth had sent shockwaves through every civilized world. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species had not only resisted conquest but had completely destroyed the force sent to subdue them. On the Vrex homeworld, Emperor Vrexthal stood before a gathering of the Coalition's most powerful leaders. Representatives from 12 different species filled the vast council chamber, but the mood was far from confident. Fear hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The human question must be resolved, the Emperor declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. They represent a threat to everything the Coalition has built. Council leader Thexera of the Zelani spoke first. Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider peaceful negotiations. The humans have made their position clear. They want to be left alone. Left alone? The Emperor snarled. They humiliated us. They destroyed our finest fleet. Every species in the galaxy now questions Coalition strength because of these creatures. High Admiral Korthvek stepped forward with a new report. Your Majesty, our intelligence division has completed their analysis of the human technology. The results are disturbing. The Emperor gestured for him to continue. The weapons they used against our fleet are beyond anything in our arsenal. Their ships can travel faster than light using technology we don't understand. Most concerning of all, they have been building new vessels at an alarming rate. Our spies report seeing construction facilities throughout their solar system. Meanwhile, in the depths of space near Earth's outer planets, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of humanity's newest and most powerful warship. The Retribution was 10 times larger than any ship in the original human fleet, and its weapons could reduce entire moons to dust. Status report, Jake commanded. Captain Ellen Price, his second-in-command, consulted her displays. All shipyards are operating at maximum capacity, Admiral. We're launching 2 new battleships every week. The Mars facilities have completed another dozen destroyer-class vessels. Luna Base reports that the new fighter squadrons are ready for combat. Jake nodded with satisfaction. Humanity was not content to simply defend Earth. They were preparing to project power throughout the galaxy. The message was clear. Anyone who threatened humanity would face consequences they could not imagine. What about our deep space scouts? Jake asked. Operating perfectly, sir. We have observation posts within 50 light-years of every major coalition world. If they move against us, we'll know about it days before their fleets arrive. Dr. Amy Watson had been promoted to head of human technological development after her success with the Vengeance. She now supervised research projects that pushed the boundaries of known science. Her latest creation was a weapon that could destroy entire star systems if necessary. The Nova bomb is ready for testing, she reported to President Mitchell during their weekly briefing. One device can trigger a chain reaction that will cause any star to explode. President Mitchell absorbed this information carefully. How many coalition worlds would such a weapon threaten? All of them, sir. Every inhabited system in coalition space is within range of our delivery systems. The president was quiet for a long moment. The power to destroy entire civilizations was not something any human leader wanted to possess. But the coalition had forced this situation by threatening Earth. Continue the research, he finally said, but I hope we never have to use it. On the other side of the galaxy, other alien species were learning about humanity's victory. The news traveled through informal networks, whispered conversations between traders and smugglers who moved between the stars. Captain Zorthek of the independent freighter Starwind brought the story to dozens of worlds. He had been present during the battle as an observer, and his account grew more dramatic with each telling. I saw it with my own eyes, he told a gathering of ship captains at a space station bar. The humans didn't just win. They completely destroyed the coalition fleet without losing a single vessel. Their ships moved like ghosts, and their weapons cut through coalition shields like they were made of paper. Word spread that there was a new power in the galaxy, a species that was not afraid of the coalition and had the weapons to back up their defiance. For races that had been forced into coalition membership, this was the most hopeful news they had heard in generations. Commander Zethkar had returned to Vrek space as promised, carrying humanity's message to the coalition leadership. But the experience had changed him. The proud military officer who had once believed in coalition superiority now questioned everything he had been taught. He found himself assigned to a desk job, analyzing intelligence reports from human space. Every day brought new evidence of humanity's growing power. More ships, bigger weapons, advanced technology that the coalition's best scientists couldn't understand. Sir, his assistant reported one morning, we've detected human ships in the Kethran system. They appear to be establishing some kind of facility. Zethkar studied the report. Kethran was over 200 light-years from Earth, deep in what the coalition considered secure space. If humans were building bases that far from home, they were clearly planning for a much larger role in galactic affairs. The final message came 6 months after the failed invasion. It was broadcast on all coalition communication frequencies, ensuring that every member species would hear it. President Mitchell's voice was calm, but carried an undertone of iron determination. People of the galaxy, this is Sam Mitchell, President of Earth. 6 months ago, the Galactic Coalition demanded our surrender. We refused. They sent a fleet to force our compliance. That fleet no longer exists. The transmission continued, and every word was heard throughout Coalition space. We want peace with all civilized species. We are willing to trade, to share knowledge, to work together for the benefit of all intelligent life. But we will never again tolerate threats against humanity or our allies. The message ended with words that would be remembered for generations. To those who would seek to conquer or control us, remember this lesson well. Humanity has been preparing for galactic contact for over a century. We know where you live, we know your weaknesses, and we have weapons you cannot imagine. Leave us in peace and we will do the same for you. But if you ever again make the mistake of threatening humanity— President Mitchell paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the promise of absolute destruction. Never anger the humans. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy to contemplate a new reality. Earth was no longer a primitive world, to be conquered. It was now a power that could challenge the coalition itself, and every species in the galaxy would have to decide whether humanity would be their friend or their destroyer.